Until someone comes forward and says that was me, I think Amber's completely full of it.
He came right out, played dumb with us. He's like, what is this people are talking about, this voicemail? How does that work with your podcast?
It sounds exactly like him.
You're right. As I listen back to it again, I'm like, oh, now I see what you mean about the cadence. That's very good. Welcome to 32 Thoughts, the podcast presented by the GMC Sierra AT4X. Shermati, Friedman, Bukauskas back with you once again. A little more compact episode here today as we save our energy for the Stanley Cup final. Elliot, we're going to see each other in Edmonton this week for Media Day coming up on Tuesday.
Yay.
How are you feeling about everything? Well, you sound very excited.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great Cup final. Cannot wait for it to get started. Going to get very comfortable in the middle of it. It's going to be a long Stanley Cup final. Very
Yes.
long.
Yes. It's got 7 written all over it again for the rematch. So we're going to dive into Oilers versus Panthers round 2 a little more when we reconvene together in Edmonton in a couple of days. Today, however, we're going to focus mainly on some other news around the National Hockey League. Also getting going this week in Buffalo, the 2025 NHL Draft Combine. Always an important week on the NHL's calendar, of course, with all the draft eligibles, or a lot of them, coming to town there, the amount of interviews that's being done, the fitness testing, everything that we have become accustomed to seeing there. But as you pointed it out on a podcast not too long ago, that's also going to be an important week with the fact that this year the draft is decentralized. So this is the one big opportunity for league executives, agents, a lot of the big power brokers in the NHL to all be together in one place. And it's shaping up to be a busy, busy week in Buffalo.
If you thought last week was rumor crazy, wait until we get through this one. Because, Kyle, as you mentioned, all the decision makers are going to be together. And a bunch of guys tell me that they have meeting after meeting after meeting, some with players to interview them. Because you don't, as you said, have those last-minute interviews at the draft this year since the teams won't be there. They're going to meet with agents. It's going to be stacked. And the stuff that's going to come out of here, I think, is going to take rumor mongering to the next level, which I know all the teams are going to be really excited about. Like, they cannot wait for that excitement to happen. So we'll see. There's still lots of time before the draft. Just because you hear things doesn't mean they're going to be imminent. As a couple of guys were telling me, you don't have to make a decision right now. You still have a few weeks left. So everybody is still looking to heist one another as opposed to getting serious about what the market really is going to be for some of these guys. One of the things I thought was really interesting was I had a couple of managers tell me, they said last year, the teams at the top of the draft were not really willing to move down. And I think this year, the teams at the very top aren't really going to be interested in moving down that far. Maybe one spot if they know what they're going to get. It's like the 2003 draft when initially Florida had the number 1 pick. Pittsburgh moved up to get Fleury. Everybody knew Carolina was taking Stahl second. Florida wanted Nathan Horton, and they knew they were going to get him third. Like, maybe there's that kind of jostling at the top. But after the top 3, I think there's a little bit more teams are sensing there's a little bit more willingness potentially for some of these teams to move down. So we'll see if that's real or that's just noise. That's one thing that's going to get sorted out over the next few weeks. I'm going to give you a few names and a few teams that people are going to be wondering about. We've talked about the Rangers. Chris Drury has a lot of balls in the air. Buffalo. I think the Sabres know they don't want to come back exactly with the same group. We know Bowen Byram's name is out there. What else are the Sabres really serious about? The JJ Peterka thing, there's been a lot of noise since going back to the trade deadline. I don't know that the Sabres want to do that, but at the very least right now, they know they've got a potentially unhappy player. And so the Sabres, how are they going to handle that? That's another thing that teams are trying to get a better look at. In Ottawa, Ottawa's got an overabundance of right-hand shots, especially if they re-sign Claude Giroux. They've got David Perron, they've got Fabian Zetterlund, they've got Drake Batherson. I believe some teams have been kind of looking at that. People are always looking for right-hand shots. Ottawa's got a lot of them. Nick Hague is another name that's getting a lot of attention. Thatcher Demko, Marco Rossi, Logan Mailloux, Rasmus Anderson. What are Calgary's plans here? Jonathan Marchessault. Now, someone mentioned to me, I thought he had a full no-move clause. That's not correct. He has a no-move clause, but he only has a partial no-trade. So Nashville has a bit more of an opportunity to move him than I thought. It's not full control for Marchessault. So that opens up potentially some of Nashville's options here, or teams that might be more interested. But I think the key is, Kyle, that after this week, I think we're going to have a better idea of what's real and what isn't, because everybody's going to be in the same place and everybody's going to have no more Tower of Babel. People are going to be able to sit there and get a good handle on what everyone else is thinking. I also think too, like some of these conversations, Giroux, Tavares, other players who are teams going to want to re-sign guys, the agents are all going to be there too. How are those conversations going to be had about extensions, whether they're unrestricted free agents or not? So all of that is going to happen this week.
So the fact that we are still just under a month from the opening of free agency, I mean, do you see this as a week to really put in the work on setting up what could come in a few weeks in terms of a decision? Or could you see a number of things maybe even getting over the finish line over the next few days, knowing that this is the last time that they're all going to be in the same place?
I think the biggest question, it's a good question. I think the only way to answer that is, do teams still think they have time to get their best offer? Because a lot of this stuff tends to happen around the draft, Kyle.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so there's still time, but it's a good question. I